Hi everybody and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys, I'm going to make a couple of videos showing my specs. Just a little aside, they're not perfect. Like I'm not a min-maxer. I don't have like no macros or anything. I do have macros. I do use macros and I think they've served me well over the years and they still do. Currently like my hit is not very high compared to a lot of players that have been playing for since the beginning of the expansion. Like I still have blues. I don't really put like I haven't got a dream orb on this. I'm not a min maxer at this point because I'm not raiding anymore. I used to min max. I used to be in my guild DPS wise. I used to ride around um not exactly top. There were some major min maxers in my guild. Like I said, it was a semi-hardcore, so kind of hardcore, but not like taking themselves too seriously, which is what I enjoyed. Like I've never really been much for competition, and whenever people were like, "Oh, Morgul, you're topping blah de blah," I'm like, "Okay." I don't care. I used to do judo, I used to do gymnastics, I did some competitions. I didn't care. I never cared about prizes. Speaking of, my boss this week, he was like, "Oh, at the end of a meeting that we had regarding some new guidelines for one of the brands that we take care of, he's like, "Oh, by the way, I have this great idea. Why don't we do this competition? So you're going to be in teams of two and la la la." Like as soon as I heard a competition, I was just like, "Disconnect. I don't care." And I told him so, and he was not happy. But and I don't think it's on anymore just because of me. I have the power to change the future in my department, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to show you first off, I guess Paragon. So let's switch to Paragon and I'll show you. Um, so the buffs that you have turn the blade. Wait, hang on. I'm going to start with the soul trees that you're going to be using. So you're going to use Paragon 61. So all the way up here. And you're going to choose Unleashed, Rising Waterfall, and Alacrity as your legendaries. So what does Unleashed do? Unleashed basically makes it so that all successful follow-up attacks places a stack of readiness on the warrior up to 5 stacks. Each stack increases attack power and weapon contribution by 4%. Each stack reduces warrior cooldowns by 8%. Like, this is probably the best cooldown in the entire tree for this spec. And then you have Rising Waterfall. Basically what it does is it's a follow-up attack. It deals weapon plus however many, like it's going to differ according to your attack power and crit power and so on. So deals weapon plus blah blah to blah blah physical damage, has a 40% chance to strike again for 15% of damage. Of overall damage is what it means. This effect can trigger up to 3 times per swing. This is fucking good. This ability grants 1 attack point. I'm gonna put on my glasses so I can read better. Like I don't need my glasses to play, but to read, yes. Anywho, Alacrity. So you're going to choose it over Swift Strike and Flurry because, I mean, Swift Strike is especially the legendary version is especially for non-Paragon. Like if you're going to mix Paragon, not 61 Paragon with another one. So if you're making a hybrid spec, it's better because it makes it so that non-Paragon abilities will deal an additional blah blah damage to the target. So since this is a major Paragon spec, it's 61, you're not going to have as many non-Paragon abilities as if it was a hybrid spec. So you don't want this because it's for non-Paragon abilities. Got it? And then Flurry, I mean, it's an okay one. I guess you could choose it, but I don't personally use Flurry that much, and I think some people, like min-maxers, will tell me that's not good, that I don't use Flurry. I only use Flurry at this point, only if it's like, if I'm ranged for whatever reason. So if like there's a boss ability that makes it so that you need to get out of melee, yeah, I mean, this is good for flurry, but I don't really use flurry that much regardless. Anywho, and so I chose alacrity. Alacrity, the next 14 Rising Waterfall, Final Blessing, and Reaping Harvest, which are all Paragon abilities, casts hit twice. So Rising Waterfall is like one of the biggest like it's not a spam, but it's something that you do spam a little bit more than any other ability. So that's good. And then Final Blessing is for like if the boss is at less than 30%. So Final Blessing is like I think it's a follow-up ability. So it's not like the first hit, it's the second two hits. Final Blessing is a big hitter, and that's why it's like the biggest hitter in the Paragon tree. And so that's why it's only for less than 30% of the boss. And Reaping Harvest is kind of like Rising Waterfall, where you use it a lot. So anywho, those three abilities, they have a 75% chance to hit 3 times. So that's why we choose this in the legendaries, you know? And then the next tree that we're going to look at is Warlord. So you pick Warlord, you pick 5 points out of Soldier's Might. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you choose it. And then Strength of Arms, you increase your attack power and weapon damage by 10%. And then the next, yeah, that's it. So 10 points into Warlord. It gives you 2 choices of legendaries. You're going to, I mean, I'm not even using any of these. Like, I guess I could choose Sergeant's Order, but I guess I should. I guess I should. I've just been using Paragon a lot in what do you call it? In the instant adventures, the celestial dream rifts. So it's good to be able to pull stuff. Whereas this legendary version of Sergeant's Order just stuns it. So it doesn't pull, it stuns, and that's it. So I guess I could choose it actually now, because I don't really do that many thingies. Yeah, let's choose it. Anywho, and then 5 points into Tempest, you're going to choose Amped, increases your attack power and weapon damage by 10%. Of course, you want more damage over just range, increases range of all ranged attacks. There's no ranged attacks in Paragon except for like Flurry and Grasping the Horizon, which is, where is it? Here. Grasping the Horizon basically means that Swift Strike, Setting Moon, Reaping Harvest, and all follow-up attacks are ranged for 15 seconds. But like I said, I don't really use it. When I used to raid, I didn't really use Paragon. I used Tempest because Tempest was the best damage in for warriors. And then your masteries, you're going to choose Resonating Strikes because why is it? Critical hits with damaging and heal. I mean, you could choose either one of these, really. I choose this. I don't even know why. Titan Strike. You could potentially use Enduring Survival, actually, because while in combat, you would heal 25% of your endurance every 3 seconds. But for some reason, I've always chosen Resonating Strike because critical hits with damaging and healing abilities apply an absorb shield to you. So I guess I choose this. I don't even know why. But you could choose this or Enduring Survival. It doesn't really matter. 61 is really up to you. You could choose Dying Breath, where enemies that you damaged within the last 3 seconds apply Dying Breath to you when they die. I mean, it's up to you. And then Shield Wall, yeah, that's not even good. That's not good. Okay, this is the only one that's not good. You could choose either one of those three. But for raiding, we used to use Resonating Strike. Next, in 62, you would choose Physiology Proficiency, increases your healing done and absorption granted by 5%. Combat Focus, this is why you choose this. Combat Focus increases your next 3 casts of Reaping Harvest by 30% instead of 1 by 50%. So that's why you choose this in 62. This is the best one because it's a Paragon ability that's talked about in this list. I mean, yeah, these ones are not really useful. And then you choose runner's training usually for 63. I mean, I guess you could choose either one of these. You could actually choose energy reserves because Paragon over time it uses a lot of energy. Like it it's not that energy draining, but it does use quite a bit of energy at some point. And then, I mean, I chose this only because I wanted to have 10% unmounted movement speed all the time. And then you could choose you could choose this. You could choose while in combat, damaging attack point, generating abilities, apply a stacking buff, increasing blah blah blah. Like this would be good actually for while you're in combat. Yeah, I guess you could choose that. Doesn't matter really. Reduces the duration. This is good for PvP. I mean, I'll choose this. Why not? Anyways, 64, this is where it gets more interesting. Above 64 is where it's more interesting. So you would choose deliberate strikes, single target attacks, put a stack of building rage on the target. After 8 seconds, building rage explodes, dealing bloody blood ethereal damage to the target, stacks up to 3 times. Building rage instantly explodes when max stacks is reached. Increases the range of your charges, and I can't talk, of your charges and teleports by 4 meters. This is probably used most because of the whole building rage. Paragon is a very what do you call it? Burst is a very bursty spec, so that's why you would use a bursty deliberate strikes thing. What would you say? A stack of precision strikes on you, increasing your damage by 2% per stack. I mean, you could, I guess. Increases the duration of damage over time effects. I mean, you could, but it's not really awesome. Steady strikes, damage is increased by 7%, but it reduces your chance to crit by 4%. For rating, you always want to have more crit. That's just the way it is. People are always going to say crit is more important than overall damage, damage DPS really. So they're always going to say like, oh, I critted for blah de blah. Yeah. Ethereal strikes. Your damaging attacks deal an additional 7% ethereal damage. Does not affect damage over time effects. I mean, you could, but this is really the more awesome one for Paragon. And then you choose power manipulation. For DPS is the best one overall for most callings and class and specs really. So yes, that's it. And then I'll show you my macros for Paragon. So this, I place it at, I don't really do that much, like mouse buttons and stuff like that. I have 2 mouse buttons really. So I just use like M4 for like fading light. I don't even know. Anywho, reaping, what's it called? What's it called? RW. Why is it called RW? I forget. Rising Waterfall, that's why. Okay, so Rising Waterfall. Show Rising Waterfall. Um, the number sign is very important here, or pound, however you want to call it. So pound, show rising and waterfall, line, suppress macro failures, and then this is where the most interesting stuff happens. So I put cast power manipulation over, I think all of my, yeah, so you got power manipulation here, and not here. But anywho, so rising waterfall. So this button I have cast power manipulation line. Cast final blessing. Like I said, this is the hardest hitter of the entire spec, and it's only sub 30% on the boss that you can that you're able to use it. Otherwise, it doesn't show up. So that's why it's on top, because it's the hardest hitter. And because it's not even going to try to cast it because of the suppressed macro failures. So it's not even going to attempt to cast Final Blessing over 30% of the boss's life, because it's not even going to become available at all until 30% of the boss's life is, until the boss is at 30%, sorry. So yes, cast Final Blessing, and then cast Rising Waterfall, cast Reaping Harvest, cast Death Touch, cast Setting Moon, and then I have cast Shock Pulse. I guess you can leave it there if you're somehow at ranged and you can't use any more of your like ranged abilities like grasping the horizon or flurry, like if you're somehow stuck at ranged, might as well just cast some shock pulses. They're not going to hit for much, but it's gonna get somewhere, I guess. And I don't know why I called it on CD, on cooldown. Somehow. Anywho, so I have number sign, show tranquility, line, suppress macro failures, line, cast power manipulation, cast shifting blades, cast tranquility, cast final blessing, cast rising waterfall, and cast reaping harvest. Some of these, like the last two, are just as fillers if I forget to move back to this button, for example. You can remove them. They're not going to be very interesting otherwise. But yeah. Uh, no, wait, you can't. Because this is where the cooldown happens. Never mind. So don't remove the Rising Waterfall and Reaping Harvest. They are hitting hard because of shifting blades. That's why. Next you've got off cooldown. When oh that's why. Okay, so when combat focus comes back on off cooldown, you can hit this button instead of the on cooldown. So that's why I have two buttons with the same abilities. So here we go. We have numbers, show combat focus, suppress macro failures, cast power manipulation, cast shifting blades, cast tranquility, cast combat focus, cast alacrity, cast reaping harvest, cast final blessing, and cast rising waterfall. So this is like your hardest hitting cooldown, and it's Paragon is very much a off cooldown spec. So if you have a lot of lag, like if your computer's slow, if you have trouble with your connection, if the game's reacting very slowly to your abilities that you're hitting, Paragon is going to suck for you because a lot of these buttons, like combat focus, for example, and all of those four actually, all of those four that I'm hovering over right now, these four buttons depend on your ability to hit buttons off cooldown, off global cooldown. So global cooldown is, I'll show you. If you're, for example, hitting the raid boss dummy, for example, right? So you see there's like a cooldown happening when you're hitting something, right? So there's a global, this is called the global cooldown, how much time you're waiting for your abilities to come back off global cooldown. But Paragon, these buttons, for example, these four cooldowns here on top are very dependent on your ability to be able to hit buttons and for your computer to react very quickly. So if there's a lot of lag in your game, Paragon is not very good for you because it's going to suck, and your DPS is not going to show very well. Um, so this entire spec, Paragon, is a global cooldown offender in the terms of if you can't deal with it, like if you have lag, it's not going to be a good spec for you. That's what I mean. And then your fourth button that I have here. So Paragon is like a 4-button spec for me, at least. I mean, I don't know if it has changed since I made the spec with the help of my guild leader back in the day. Around 3.0 is when I made the spec. I don't know if it's changed much, but I don't believe so. I've been having fun with Paragon. It hasn't made problems for me, so it should be still fine. And anyway, so this fourth button is show number sign, show open the stream. Don't forget the and don't forget the spaces. So show open the stream, suppress macro failures, cast open the stream, and cast setting moon. So this is your dot basically. And so it's like every 15 seconds if I forget, if I don't yeah, so 15-second dot basically. Um So the way I've placed my buttons is I have these 4 here, so I know when things are off cooldown, and I know when to push this button, 3, and I know when to push 2. And then I've placed basically my 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6 is my grasping the horizon, so I can use my abilities in range for 15 seconds, and then I have flurry on 7. 8, I should really remove it because I don't even use, like I said, I use power manipulation, I don't use power variation. And then I have thread the trees, like I'm still gonna keep it just in case. Thread the trees on 9, and then this here is sweeping blades. Sweeping blades is your AoE-ish ability, so that all of your abilities, or most of them anyways, are going um, to hit up to 4 additional enemies. So your single target stuff is going to hit 4 other enemies. And then this is my interrupt. I made a flinch and strike here, interrupt. I have number sign, show flinching strike, suppress macro failures, and cast at focus flinching strike. Now, at focus, I added that because I used to raid, and sometimes there were like 2 bosses that you needed to keep your eye on. I would basically focus. Focus. You can make your focus by hitting Control F. Sorry, nope, it's Shift F. Is it? What the fuck? I forget. How do you make focus again? Commands. Oh no, that's not it. It's Keybindings. There we go. Target selection. How do you make a target focus target? Set focus target. It's Shift F. Okay. So you would hit, for example, Shift F, and oh, I should make myself a add gadget. Unit frame. Would say focus. Life unit. Say standard frame, for example. And so here, this would be like my focus target. I would put it, I don't know, like here. Let's put it here. Okay, so let's remove, how do you remove again? I forget. Key bindings. Set focus target. How do you unfocus? Whatever. Anyway, so this would be my focus target. I have this but that is visible to me. And so let's say if I'm hitting this raid boss practice target, I would, keep hitting, blah blah blah. And then let's say there was like a the boss, the focus boss would have like an interrupt to do. I would just basically hit this and it would actually reach this target and interrupt. So it was very useful for raiding. Yeah. Anywho, and then I have these additional abilities here. I have R, which is my Shield of Will, T, which is my Sergeant's Order, and then predictable movements. I have added it as a just in case. It stuns. Wrist Strike, it debilitates. And Eye of the Storm, it snares. So that's useful. And then I have Fleet of Foot that I can hit if I want to run really fast. If I want to run like in front of everybody to the next boss. It's pretty good. I should probably add to my thingies. I should probably add cast Sergeant's Order. Yeah, so let's do that. Now, the numbers I'm going to do to have are not going to be very are not going to be like reminiscent of what I would do on a real boss at this level. This is a level 62 raid boss practice dummy, so it's not going to be like the current numbers that I do against level 72 bosses, right? So it's going to be like, oh my god, it looks so awesome on you right now. Your numbers look amazing. It's not really the numbers that I would do on a level 72 boss. Just saying. Anywho, so let's hit it. So what you would do is you hit 4 2 times. Oh shit, wait, nah. I'm sorry, I've messed up. So what you gotta do is you gotta buff up first, right? So you have turn the blade as your buff, and focus of body, way of the wind, way of the river, enhanced conductivity, and recovery posture. So these are your buffs that you have. And then I'm going to clear my meter so that you have a better idea of what numbers I can do on the level 762 dummy. So here we go. Threaded trees, and then you do OTS 2 times and then 3 until you hit that 2 attack power here, and then you go to number 1, button 1 until you have to hit open the stream again. So you gotta watch your cooldowns here. So I have open the stream here, right? And then, oh, wait, 2 is off cooldown. Hit 2, and then you go back to 1. Watch your dots. Open the stream is coming off cooldown soon. So you gotta hit 4 now. 4. Oh, 3, because this is off cooldown. So hit it until you got 2 attack points, and done. And then you hit 1. Wow, it's a lot of watching your dots and its abilities come off cooldown. So I'm hitting 4, and then 2. And, okay, go back to 1. Amaze balls, right? Gotta watch your cooldowns. Okay, open the stream is coming up soon. Gotta hit it now. 4. Oh, all off cooldown, so you gotta hit 3. And 2. Okay, go back to 1. Da-da-da, da-da-da. It's pretty insane, but that's Paragon for you. And then, oh, okay, open the stream. 4. Oh, and these are back. Gotta hit 2 until you got 3. And then, okay, back to 1. All right. Gonna hit 1 for a bit. Okay, 4 is coming. Oh, open the stream. Gotta hit open the stream. 4. Oh, 3 now. It's crazy, isn't it? All right. Now, watch your cooldown. Watch your open the stream here. Okay, I'm gonna hit it 4 a little bit in advance. Oh, now 2, because these 2 are off cooldown. Okay, amaze balls. Go back to 1. I mean, I would recommend maybe checking out K Alert. Like, if you have a K Alert, it's easier to keep everything under control. Now I gotta hit 3, because combat focus is off cooldown. All right, so it's pretty insane. That's Paragon for you. You got a lot to keep your eye on. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you could probably get K alerts to keep these things on under control, so that you don't go insane and you don't lose DPS because you've not refreshed your dots, or you do everything you can to help yourself. I don't care if you use K alerts. I use K alerts too most of the time. Okay, so as I said, it uses quite a bit of energy after a while. Like, if it's a short fight, it's not going to be a problem, but if it's a very long fight, like a raid boss, um like not easy mode, if it's hard mode and you got everything to keep under control, if you've got um a lot of life to get through, then I would recommend maybe getting uh, this energy reserves. But in any case, gladiator combat training is better, I'd say. So that's Paragon for you. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoy. When I'm out in the world, just as an aside, when I'm out in the world, when I'm DPSing like open world content, I do change to Way of the Mountain and Way of the Sun because Way of the Mountain, the warrior cannot be knocked back and takes 5% less damage. That's good. And then Way of the Sun, follow-up attacks heal the Paragon 20% of attack power. So I don't go below, like, I don't go to like fucking 10% life. Most of the time, anyways. So these two are very good for open world content, but these two, Way of the Wind, when hitting an enemy with a follow-up attack or reaping harvest, deals an additional blah blah air damage. That's good for DPSing. That's good for a boss. And Way of the River increases physical crit by 3%. That's good for DPSing. So there's a difference between raiding or dungeon content and open world content, at least for me. Like, if you want to DPS away in open world content, go ahead. I mean, you're going to struggle with your life, but if you want to be safe, then I would go with Way of the Mountain and Way of the Sun, because these two are going to help you. So that's it for Paragon. I hope you enjoyed. If you have additional questions, ask me. I will put my macros on the under my in the description box of my video. So it will be a little bit easier for you to keep along with me on the video. And I hope to see you next time. See ya.